I've got screaming children in the background.
Oh, good.
I guess it's better than them being in the foreground.
Yes.
What are they screaming about?
She's screaming, "Eat you!" I think she's
Solace
like...
is the worst Bond movie.
What? What are they screaming about? Oh, God.
There was Misha.
Right, folks. We'll give it till 22 for people to filter in, and then we'll get started.
Yes.
How's your robot arm, Pete?
I'm trying to figure. There's only 2 hardware PWM channels on a Raspberry Pi, and there's code for that. But there's also a software PWM code. It doesn't seem to work very well because it's software PWM, I guess. So
I would like to say I understood everything you just said.
You did, absolutely. Pulse width modulation. That's how servos work.
Okay.
Turning pulses on and off at different rates will position the servo depending on how long the pulse is on for and how long it's off for. And you can do that in hardware, which is going to be really consistent because it's sort of done at the chip level, or you can do it in software where you literally turn the pin on and off at a given rate. But if the Pi is busy doing something, that rate won't be consistent, which means the arm is moving around crazily rather than nice and smoothly. So it might be that we can't get one of the servos to work on this particular demo, but hey ho, it's all right.
Are you deploying your code to that through the IoT hub stuff, or are you deploy it like doing it direct because it's local?
Yeah, just doing it straight on a Samba share on the device, and then .NET Run. You could do it over an SSH connection and deploy it that way, like I've done in my demo, that DevOps demo. But it's just for a workshop, it's just an added complication.
Fair enough.
Indeed.
As you can see, like Peter's also wearing his channel T-shirt today.
Oh!
Both of mine are in the box. Both my,
what are you doing, Liam? Come on.
and the T-shirt. Well, the T-shirt was clean this morning, and I brushed my teeth, and I gotten dressed and everything, and I brushed my teeth, ready for work. My dog came in and nudged my arm, and I got toothpaste down myself.
Oh, made a dog's dinner of that. I saw you roll your eyes, Louise.
Don't know what you mean.
It's fine. It's all good.
Okay. But think of how over the last few months, whilst we've been doing this remotely, how much pizza we haven't eaten.
Yeah. And I've still managed to put on 10 kilos. How? Oh,
you look fine.
Shopping.
I didn't catch any of that.
That was. Yeah.
I said you look fine, Misha.
Thank you. You can only see my head. It's fine.
It's all gone to your feet, has it?
Yeah.
Really big feet now.
I have quite large feet for a girl, actually. They're size 7.
There you go.
Yeah. Well, it's okay. I'm relatively tall. Yeah, don't look that silly.
No, not got clown feet.
Not Sideshow Bob.
No. I've been asked to give a lightning talk. I'm not quite sure whether or not it's public knowledge or not, but I'm just trying to figure out.
We are live on YouTube at the minute as well, Pete.
Oh yeah, but I've not said who for or what event or anything.
Okay,
so,
fair enough.
but I'm just trying to figure out what to talk about. I've been told that I'll be on the naughty list if I don't give a name for the lightning talk, and I've been promising to give it. So I just really don't know what to speak about in 10 minutes.
Pete does something with IoT.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
Does it have to be something new, or can you talk about your robot arm again?
I could do.
You'd be able to talk about it within 5 minutes and be coherent.
Yeah, I suppose I could explain the basic building blocks or something like that. I think it probably needs to be a little bit Christmassy, being as it's this side of Christmas.
3
Put a
slides.
Santa hat on it.
4 slides. That's all you need, yeah.
Yeah.
First slide, picture of an arm.
Tinsel.
Second slide, picture of a robot. Third slide, equals.
Building Santa a prosthetic arm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did one of those at DevOps Days, and I thought, yeah, this is really comedy, right? And then the guy after me had this presentation about multi-threading in HA proxy.
Oh.
And I'm thinking, man, I've just like completely misjudged the tone of the event. It actually turned out to be like, a mixture. There were half a dozen people doing lightning talks, and it turned out to be a mixture of like jokes about enterprise DevOps for some, which including me, and then like actually, intelligent content from some of the others. So I don't like in the end, it was all fine, but it was like
I don't know. I've got to come up with an idea.
You'll be fine. But if you can play that game that we were playing the other day without having any sight of what the slides are going to be, you'll be fine.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, maybe I should just crowdsource some slides and then just make a talk over the top of them.
That's a great idea. There's another show for our channel.
Yeah. I still can't remember what's it called at PubConf. That the way they give you random slides and you have to talk over the top of them with time.
Was it Ignite talks or something?
No, Ignite is the moving format, the 5 minutes, 20 slides, auto incrementing every 15 seconds. The them being randomly generated is just another layer of insanity on top of that.
Well, Misha did really well. She's found a new calling. So
she really has. Misha, you were awesome at that.
What? Sorry.
The game we played the other day on
presentation.
Oh yeah, that was fun. Yeah, finally my improv skills are actually, being used.
I can only apologise for the amount of sexual references and profanity that was in that, and perhaps slightly contributed to Louise's headache.
Yeah.
It was definitely not safe for work.
Right, folks, on that note, shall we get started?
I think we shall,
Right. So, welcome everybody to this month's DevOps Notts. It is our last one for 2020. We'll be back in January. Why is my start bar there? But thank you first and foremost to our sponsors for sponsoring us over the last year. That's to Rebel, who have continued to provide a lot of support for the meetup, even when their own offices have been closed and everything. They've been really great in helping support us through helping to schedule guests, helping to provide Zoom, especially when we've had massive amounts of people for some of our events. Big thanks to stickers still as well. And while we've not been able to do much in terms of stickers, it's been great to have their support as well, along with JetBrains, who provide us with a giveaway or a product license, should I say, to give away every month. So now I just want to quickly hand over to Louise, who's going to talk to us about Tech Nottingham.
Yeah, so I think we can all agree that 2020 has been a pretty challenging year. Normally in December, we would be arranging our Nottingham Tech Community Christmas party, which isn't really going to work as it normally does. So what we want to do instead is we've put all of the money we'd normally put into a venue and food, and we've ploughed it into a really spectacular online party instead. We are working with Wi-Fi Wars to present a live comedy game show. You get to play along at home on your phone. It's hosted by professional comedian and video games commentator Steve McNeil. You might know him as the team captain on Dara O'Brien's Go 8-Bit. On top of that, we're going to have a whole load of social games without the professional comedian this time, but there'll be extra games on top of those ones. We're going to have a most festive Zoom feed competition, so get decorating your workspace. We've also gone all out with prizes this year as well. Our top prize is a Nintendo Switch Lite. The first wave of tickets are going to go on
Ooh.
sale at noon on Friday. Tickets are just £10. It really is shaping up to be a great night. So the URL is on screen there, not.tech/Xmas20. So yeah, hope to see you there.
Yeah, that sounds great, Louise.
Yeah, it really is. Very excited about it.
Yeah.
They've got we've got a little promo video on our Twitter, and you can have a look online at some of the Wi-Fi Wars things they've done. It looks really good.
Cool. Excellent.
Next slide.
Yeah. So on top of the Christmas party, we're also running our first ever Secret Santa gift exchange. You know how Secret Santas work. You'll get randomly given a person to buy a present for. Somebody else gets to buy you a present. This is not tied to the Christmas party, so you can sign up for this even if you can't make the Christmas party. We also are not going to be giving out addresses to anyone. Well, for some people, we'll give out their address to the post office if they live too far away. But the general concept is all gifts go to Tech Nottingham HQ, and we deliver them across the community. This is either for privacy reasons or because Andrew wants to play Santa. We're not really sure which. More details are on the URL on this screen, not.tech/Santa20. And as we said on the slide, it's the thought that counts, but presents are good too.
Hey.
Thank you, Louise. Pete, do you want to talk about your meetup at this point, or do you want me to do it for you?
Oh, no, yep. I was coding actually in the background there, so apologies. Yeah, we've got a week yesterday, in fact, we've got Mads Torgersen, who is the lead designer on C#, coming to talk about C#, obviously. So that's going to be really good, actually. And that's our last meetup of the year as well. I'm afraid we've not got anything quite as special as what Tech Nottingham are planning there. That will be fantastic. So I can only imagine that will be a well-attended and really fun event. But yeah, this one's going to be good too. Do book. There's quite a lot of people already registered for that. So I think, is there a limit, I think, on Zoom, isn't there? It's still of like 100 odd people or something.
Come and talk to me, Pete. Come and talk to me. We faced this
I've got
already.
license, but I don't know what the limitations are. So, but I think we're all right for now.
I
But
think
yeah,
you can
you'll be
buy the
fine.
blocks, yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Thank you.
And it wouldn't be a DevOps Notts if I didn't start plugging our own wares, really. So obviously you've just heard from Pete, you've heard from Louise, Misha, and you're going to hear a lot from myself this evening. The only part of the quintet is Jonathan, who isn't here with us this evening. But we run a podcast as well called the Agile Engineering Podcast, and we talk all things DevOps, Agile, software development, leadership. Basically, if it exists in IT today, then we will be talking about it now with a lot of special guests as well. Our recent episode has Tom Hoyland from Sky Betting and Gaming, who's spoken here at DevOps Notts, and we're talking about the theory of constraints. Our next episode is out next Friday, I think, the first Friday of the month, and where we have Tom Geraghty, and we'll be talking about psychological safety.
That was a really good one to do, actually. I really enjoyed that one.
Yeah. You may have seen me bleat on about this before as well, and you're lucky if you're looking at my background in Zoom right now, you see our other show. But Pete, Jonathan, and I also have two shows that we do. Derek also has one on the what is fast becoming a TV channel for us, where we get together every other week and we try and build something out of it. With Microsoft technologies, it's a bit like Scrap Heap Challenge / Junkyard Wars, with Stack Overflow, for an hour every other lunchtime. Every other Tuesday lunchtime. And my background, as you can see up in the top right, if you're looking on YouTube, is for our other show, which is Azure-ish After Dark, which airs tomorrow at 8 p.m. on twitch.tv/Azure-ish Live, where I'll be joined by Kayla Cinnamon from Microsoft to talk about Windows Terminal. She's the program manager there, and we're probably going to play some video games as well. So please feel free to come along. Obviously, tonight we have a giveaway like we always do. We'll be giving away a product license for any JetBrains product for a year. Once that license runs out, you can choose to renew it of your own accord, or if you don't, you get a previous version of the same product in perpetuity. So all you need to do that, get onto Twitter, make a tweet with the hashtag DevOps Notts, and we'll pick a winner at the end of the evening. We are now looking for speakers into 2021. So if you'd like to speak to us, you can either contact, or rather, if you'd like to speak here at DevOps Notts, come and speak to us, should I say, by dropping us an email at contact@devopsnotts.co.uk or going to Twitter, which will be just at DevOps Notts, or you can get hold of Misha or myself, who are on Twitter as well, with all the various links from DevOps Notts. So recruitment, Misha, I'm going to hand over to you because this is your thing.
Yeah, I do it for a living. I am a recruiter at Rebel Recruiters. I am recruiting heavily across the board for all kinds of developers, but also a lot of DevOps stuff and quite a lot of it for Liam. So if you would like to work with Liam and you like Azure, AWS, you like cloud, you want to be a cloud systems engineer, you want to be an SRE. If you want to get fast tracked as well, there's a really cool fast track program which will give you some training to enjoy. All that is prerequisite is a couple of years of experience with the target technology, so in this case be AWS, and you get the pleasure to learn stuff, have a nice time, talk with Liam. You might end up on Azure-ish Live, you know. Who knows? But yeah, come and talk to me and I will point you in the right direction for a role that you would really love.
Thank you very much, Misha. So on to tonight. We have got two fantastic speakers for you. Take back to the Azure-ish Live thing, both of which have appeared on my various shows over the last few weeks, or I've appeared on Derek's show, so is Pete, in fact. But we have an Azure heavy evening for you, where John Lunn will be giving a talk on moving to the cloud with the Microsoft Cloud Adoption Framework and enterprise scale. And later on, after a brief break, Derek will be giving us a talk on RUNBOOK automation with Octopus Deploye, RUNBOOKS, and Azure automation. So please give a warm DevOps Notts welcome to John Lunn.
Yay!
Hello, can you hear me all right?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Cool, right, let me just share the screen. Let me know when you can see it.
I'm just going to mute everybody as well that isn't John. Oh.
All good?
Okay.
You done it?
No, give me a second. There was a button somewhere. Oh, there. Okay, so I'm going to mute all, but John, please unmute yourself when you need to talk.
Yeah, no worries.
There we go.
There we go. You should be able to still hear me. Cool. Right. Okay. Hello, everyone. And yeah, thanks very much for inviting me to speak with you guys tonight at DevOps Notts. I'm really excited to run you through some bits and pieces on the cloud adoption framework. But just a quick introduction from myself. So my name is John Lunn. As the slide suggests, I'm a technical architect working at BT Enterprise. So my job fundamentally involves going out and speaking with BT Enterprise's customers around mainly Azure, doing a lot of 365 still for my sins at the moment. But yeah, getting quite a good lot of traction over the last couple of years with cloud transition. So tonight's talk, I'm going to really delve a little bit into the cloud adoption framework, really just to understand, help everybody understand what it is, what kind of things it's got in there, why would you want to use it. And I thought I'd tag on this bit about enterprise scale. By rights, they could probably be two separate talks because there is so much to talk about within this sort of area. So tonight I'm going to focus on just giving you guys a general overview of what the cloud adoption framework is. We'll delve into a few of the tools, the templates, and you know what kind of assessments you can run from it, and understand the whole kind of ethos behind the cloud adoption framework. Then I'm hoping to delve a little bit into the enterprise scale landing zone, so you get a little bit of a feel for one of the parts of the cloud adoption framework, which we'll get to. And if things go well for us, I'll give a quick demo just to show you some deployments from GitHub for enterprise scale, and this new term that's kind of being thrown around a little bit at the minute called AZOps. So we'll look into that. So without further ado, let's jump straight in. So from the perspective of cloud, I think the cloud adoption framework, it starts off really by trying to get you as a business or an individual to understand, right, okay, you've made your decision to commit to some kind of a change. It's understand that's the first step. So whether it's your business that's looking to evolve to meet, increased market demand, or you're facing some kind of tough competition, change is going to be inevitable at any point. So many business leaders today, they already realize change is far more than just coming in, dropping a load of technology in place and walking away and hoping that the world is going to be good. They understand it's going to be an incremental process. Yeah, so really involving how you're doing your business. And that's really going to affect your business. It's going to affect your culture. As you all know, from a DevOps perspective, it's going to affect far more than just technology. So really that's part of what the cloud adoption framework is there to try and help address. It's to try and say it in a nutshell, it's a set of best practices. It's a set of tooling. It's a set of resources that you can dip in and out of to help your transition to the cloud at any point of that journey, whether you want to start at the beginning and work your way through, or delve in, depending on the maturity of where you as a business are currently looking at. So really the kind of opportunities that we've got with the cloud adoption framework is lots of organizations are currently trying to adapt and do this whole digital transformation thing. But where do you start? It's not really about how you do it. I think as technologists, we all understand technology to a point. We know how to learn things. We know how to jump in and do things. But the cloud adoption framework aims to address that why. Why are you looking to do those changes? Not so much you can do it, but why? So as we move through, so when you've got the buy-in from your senior leadership team, you basically leave the door open to lead the way to this big digital transformation and modernization of your organization. So, from various different levels, you might be thinking things like, well, what's in it for me as an individual working on this stuff? What's in it for me, as my business? And how's it going to affect the bottom line? Because, clearly things need to affect things in a positive way. Otherwise, we all wouldn't have jobs. But so the point is, with cloud and cloud transitions, there are so many different growth benefits. Now, there was one term that I heard not too long ago, actually, I thought it stuck with me as quite a good term, is not so much around that kind of return on investment kind of play. It's really looking at that return on the innovation side of things. So what does the cloud enable you to do? What could it enable you to do? So, whether you're considering some kind of a hybrid cloud solution for growing your business, or you're looking to modernize an on-prem app, or move some other apps into a cloud environment, there are lots of different ways in which you can kind of adopt the cloud. And that's where we're going with the cloud adoption framework. So with that as the precursor to what we're going to talk about briefly, I'm going to try and run through this as quickly as I can, because like I say, there is a lot of content to fit in. And all of this content, I'll give you some links and show you where it all is on the website, the Microsoft Docs site, so you can obviously peruse certain areas at your leisure. But let's make a start. So the cloud adoption framework. Okay, so CAF for Azure, it means really changing how you do business, not just swapping out the technology as we've kind of talked about. Looking at changing your enterprise and the culture behind it, so really understanding that, the best practices that have been shared from Microsoft employees, partners, lots of customers that have transitioned into the cloud. They've done that journey. They fed all of that good knowledge back into Microsoft, and Microsoft have kind of formulated it and made this thing called the Cloud Adoption Framework. And it's really built on that people, process, and technology. So it's about working out a strategy that aligns to your business goals. It's about being quick and efficient with real actionable guidance. So, so you can go back to your business and provide that clear guidance for why your organization may want to adopt some agile business transformation. So leading people through the change, it is a difficult thing to do. So, as we know, there are lots of changes that come through with actually getting your people up to speed, skilled up, and knowledgeable of the areas that you're looking to move into. again, that forms part of CAF. So the general kind of key takeaway is CAF tries to help you understand how does it work for your business? How is this transformation going to work for your business? And it's about finding that balance with the need to innovate, to add that value add to your business, but equally keep that speed and agility that we've all grown accustomed to working with in recent years. So it all starts really with the definition of a strategy. Excuse me. So the first part of CAF is really understanding what your vision is, so crystallizing your vision for the cloud adoption by really working cross functionality across teams, across your finance, your marketing, your sales, your HR department, and understanding what those clear motivations are. Why are you adopting the cloud? It could be a simple answer. It could just be, well, because we want to. It could be that we're looking to save some costs on an aging data center that's, I don't know, whatever, going out of support and they've upped their fees. It could be that you've got aging hardware, you don't want to invest. There are just so many. So understand those motivations first and foremost. Define your business outcomes. So what are you expecting to move to the cloud? And try and define those outcomes so that you can obviously measure yourselves against them. And then finally, it's about your strategy should contain that real business justification. Because again, as technologists, it's great. We can spin up a free Azure subscription and start throwing bits and pieces into it. And well, it gets eaten up by the end of the month and then it restarts. Obviously, we can't do that in production environments. Somebody is having to pay for that. So really helping define what those justifications are and what you need to get there is again, it's all part of CAF. You can see on this slide, so once we start off with the strategy, we move into the core of what Cloud Adoption Framework is about. So it's the plan, the ready, and the adopt. And then the outer edge is around governance and the management of that platform as you move forward. So again, sticking with the strategy piece at the moment, there are generally two themes when it comes to really defining what your strategy is, and they are around sort of the motivations that you need to do something, and typically those motivations fall into two camps. So whether or not it's a pure migration piece of work that you're looking to do, so in other words, a lift and shift, you've got some applications sat in an environment at the moment, you want to lift and shift that. They've clearly got specific types of motivation, things like saving costs, reducing complexity, all those things on the left of that slide there. But then when you look at the other side of the fence for adopting cloud, things like the innovation piece, clearly there are different kind of motivations going on there as well. So it's important to understand and define the both. Now, clearly a business can have both motivations, but, would you be doing one over the other? You might not. It's just understanding that you've got these two ways of looking at it, essentially. So pure migrate and innovation. And again, we'll dig into the Microsoft Docs in a bit, and I'll just show you where all of this collateral is. So once we've defined our strategy, really we're moving on to the plan phase of the Cloud Adoption Framework. And within the plan phase, there's a few different things that we do here. One of the key elements is really we rationalize your current digital estate. So understand what the current estate looks like, try and maximize the return, minimize any risks by running some workload assessments. And then once we've got all of that good stuff, we move into another part of the plan phase, which is create a cloud adoption plan. And again, I'll show you some tooling around this because there's some great tooling that's relatively recently been released by Microsoft that kind of helps that. And it basically, there's a demo Azure DevOps deployment that will spin up a load of CAF epics and sort of statements and work issue logs and backlog items within an Azure DevOps environment. So I'll quickly show that in a second. So the idea of obviously rationalizing your digital estate is during the plan phase, you would run some form of tooling generally if you were a reasonably large organization. And that can be things like Azure Migrate, that you can do an assessment across your infrastructure. So whether you've got a single data center, multiple data centers, just run that assessment, get a good feel for the infrastructure that you're currently running. And, again, within that infrastructure assessment, you can get some good feedback. Things like, VM sizes, whether or not it's good to lift and shift directly into Azure, is it running legacy OSs? Is it running an unsupported OS that you can't lift and shift into Azure? There's lots of good things, but the point is rationalizing what you've got at the moment. And typically speaking, when you come to looking at rationalizing your estate, it falls into this term of the 5 R's. So you've got the concept of rehosting. So in other words, lift and shift. So in other words, we've got something that's currently sat in place A. We want to take it as it currently is and put it straight into Azure. Great. We've got the refactor. So that can also refer to kind of application development. So refactoring of code to allow our application to deliver some kind of new online business opportunity or something like that. But you've got the ability to, you don't want to lift and shift, you want to refactor the application maybe into Azure using some of the serverless components that Azure has to offer maybe. You've got the concept of re-architecting. So when you've got aging applications, they may not necessarily be compatible with the cloud as they currently are. They may be running old code bases or libraries. They need to be re-architected. So we've got that component there that some of your digital estate may need to be re-architected. And then finally, well, not finally, sorry, there's 2 more. We got rebuild. Clearly makes sense, rather than lift and shifting or migrating or refactoring, we can just build straight in the cloud. That may be with IaaS application, IaaS servers and services. It may be some of the PaaS or other SaaS elements with 365. Just rebuild. We're doing something completely new with the cloud. And then finally, replace. So sometimes it's the best option, yes, and dependent on the age of the business and their applications. Certainly some of the businesses I've worked with over the years, I'm sure you guys probably know different. You go in, there's lots of stuff there, yeah. No world is living at the bleeding edge. They've been running services and applications for numbers of years, and businesses are in various states of repair, disrepair, and patch. It's just reality at the moment. So sometimes just cutting your losses and replacing is a great option. So they're the kind of things. So the key takeaways, I suppose, from the plan stage, there's really those 2 major actions that you're doing. So you're rationalizing your digital estate and you're creating a cloud adoption plan. Just remember, we've got those 5 options for cloud rationalization. We've got rehost, refactor, re-architect, rebuild, and replace. And that's about it from a plan point of view. So we'll quickly shift into ready. We'll run through this. So ready is probably the bit that really aligns to the enterprise scale bit that I'm going to talk to you briefly about shortly. But it also covers another key area. So really getting your skills and your organization's people up to speed with the knowledge and the learning pathways that they need to do the job in this new cloud world. Yeah, let's face it. We're all learning every day. Nobody will ever know everything. There's too much to learn. So if you roll back a couple of stages and look at your business plan, your cloud adoption plan, you will have made some specific decisions. We want to do X, and we're going to do it in this manner. So therefore, you can align your people's skills and that strategy with that. And that is very much part of the ready phase. So it's about how do you get your business aligned to what it is that you look to do. So addressing the current gaps in knowledge and skill, just making sure that IT and the business are ready for the change. They know what it actually means in reality and not just this set of buzzwords. They actually know what it means to them and their day job. So that's the first part of the ready phase. The second part is really, it's an interesting phase. And like I say, I'm going to delve into it a little bit now in a second, but creating a landing zone. This concept of having, I'll get to the enterprise scale bit shortly, but this concept of having a landing zone living in Azure that you are pretty much ready and waiting to go and start putting stuff into it. Now, that scales out quite a bit into this concept of enterprise scale. And like I say, we'll touch on that a little bit deeper in a second, I think. So let me just have a quick look now if there's anything else there really to cover off. No, I don't think so. But I think, so just to repeat on the key components of what ready means. So it's really about that understanding cloud adoption. It's a strategic change that requires involvement from the business decision makers and the end users, as well as your staff. So where there's defined skills and support readiness, create and implement a skills readiness plan is key to it. So really that's there to address those current gaps, is to ensure that the people are ready for the change and really to define what support that you need. And another key takeaway of ready is it's about the process of creating that landing zone. So setting up that migration target in the cloud that can handle prioritized applications or handle your first migration workloads, whatever it may be that you've defined. Okay, we'll quickly shift into the adopt part. So at this point, it's probably fair to say we've established what our business justification is, and we've defined what our business outcomes. We've prepared our organization. We've got our skills up to date. We've got a landing zone set up in Azure. So our people in the Azure environment, they're all ready to deploy our prioritized applications. So you're ready to adopt the cloud, essentially. So the cloud technologies that you're going to adopt, they're going to follow a selected kind of digital estate rationalization path that you would have discussed as part of cloud adoption framework. So as I mentioned earlier, your organization has got unique motivations. So it's important to understand that and to eke those out really to adopt the cloud. And they kind of, like I said earlier, they converge into this migrate or innovate in the cloud. So cloud migration, like I said earlier, it's just the process of really understanding that you're moving existing digital estates to the cloud platform. So the existing assets are replicated to the cloud with really minimal modifications to them. And after an application or some workload has become operational in the cloud, so users are typically transitioned from where they were once using it into where they're now going to use it. So it's probably fair to say that a cloud migration is one way to effectively balance a cloud portfolio. It's often the fastest and most agile approach in the short term, but conversely, some of the benefits of the cloud might not be realized really without future modification. So enterprises and mid-market customers, they use that approach to accelerate the pace of change in their organization, to avoid planned CapEx, big, sort of refreshes on kit that they may have to spend, and really look to kind of reduce those ongoing operational costs. So the strategy piece and the tools that you've used to migrate an application into Azure, they largely depend on your business motivations. So, and what your technology strategies are going to be, and of course, what kind of timelines you got. So the decisions are based on really that deep understanding of the application and the assets that need to be migrated. So they include things like the infrastructure, the apps and data, and there is a decision tree in the cloud adoption framework. There's quite kind of a nice decision tree that kind of gives you that pointer to understand, right, when do I need to lift, or what do I need to do in a lift and shift? And I'll show you where to find that. So the other parts of the adopt piece is the cloud innovation. So I think it's fair to say that, cloud native apps and data, they accelerate, development and experimentation cycles. So older apps can obviously take advantage of many of the same cloud native benefits. We can modernize a solution or the components of the solution. As we know, with modern DevOps processes and software deployment life cycles, approaches that can use cloud technology really shorten the time from that initial idea to that product transformation. So when you combine those kind of approaches, the tools, they really invite whoever's trying to define these innovation pieces, that they invite them into the process in just such that that shorter period of time, create short feedback loops, and bottom line is better customer experiences, and that's what it's all about. So just a quick review of the adopt phase. The key takeaways are that the cloud migration is the process of moving additional, the existing digital assets to the cloud platform. Adopt is divided into two different options, that migrate and innovate section. We've got that each cloud migration activity is contained during one of the following processes. As it relates to the migration backlog. So the processes are either going to be an assess, a migrate, an optimize, or secure. So once you've managed each backlog asset around that migration piece, then that's really what you're aiming for. So that migration activity should cover those broad set of items. Again, there is a lot to talk about just in that one area alone, and it's one of those things where you could probably talk for another hour in its own right. So I'll point you at the cloud, the Microsoft Docs area for CAF. So Yeah, and the final piece really is around the modernization and the innovation within your IT portfolio. So it's really about creating that tighter alignment with that DevOps methodology and thought process, that mindset, and accelerating innovations across the digital estate. So quickly then, the final area of CAF is this whole govern and manage piece. So it's really, the process of adopting the cloud. We know it's that journey. So it's not a destination. We're not going to get somewhere and say, right, we've hit it, we've done what we need to do. All thing is golden. So the final state of the cloud adoption is really, it's unknown, when you start off on this journey. So as your organization kind of moves or deploys new applications to the cloud, the final state does start to form, and it starts to form for some customers sooner rather than later. If you've done a really good cloud adoption plan, you've been very specific, then great. But a lot of the time, it's not quite that black and white. So as you get more and more in, as your staff and your users get more and more accustomed to what you're actually trying to do, that final picture starts to become a hell of a lot clearer. So really, the definition of governance solutions is one of the key aspects, really, to really truly understand, and finalize your organizational business needs. Provide that agility and put controls in place to mitigate any risks of doing something untoward within your cloud environment once it's up and running. So managing the cloud environment based on those governance solutions, what it does, it enables it to evolve, it enables it to grow. There's feedback loops. So it'll adapt to your organization's, the changing business needs. On that note, I won't go into any further detail. Like I say, there's a lot to really discuss on the govern and manage piece. I'm going to touch some of it now as we break into the enterprise scale piece. But the first thing I guess to note there is really these links here are obviously hyperlinks. I'll make the slide deck available to Liam at the end, so you can obviously take this away and use it to suit. Yeah, I'll show you this website in a second when I flick to the web browser, but jump into the documentation, get started. You don't have to start at the beginning. One of the key things I think that CAF offers as well is really various different questions that you may have. You may find that you're in a particular situation at the moment where there's a particular blocker that's stopping you convincing one of the C-level execs that this is the way to go, or you jump onto the Cloud Adoption Framework documentation, because there's a lot of good knowledge with how to overcome those blockers. Really which parts of CAF might you want to focus on first, and it'll help you through that journey. We'll have a quick look as well at some tools that we've got available to us through CAF. Again, these are all hyperlinks and they can be clicked on, and to be honest, they're all available in the Microsoft Docs area. I'll pick on a couple of these in a second, just to give you a bit of an idea of what we've got before we delve into the enterprise scale piece. I think we'll look at the cloud journey tracker and just show you the governance benchmark, just so you can get a bit of a feel. And of course, I don't know if it's on there. I don't think this one's updated, but they just brought in that DevOps piece. We'll have a quick look at that as well, so you can get an idea. We've covered skills readiness, but fundamentally, one thing to pick out on skills readiness, I'm sure you're all aware, but for those that aren't aware at the moment, Microsoft have heavily invested in their Learn platform. So there's a lot of content on Microsoft Learn. It's all free content. It's been updated very regularly, and there's some great learning paths on there. So if you haven't already, I would highly recommend you go to the Microsoft Learn website and have a delve into that, because then there's some great content. One of the other things of CAF is also, look, as a business, not every business has got the skill sets to do the work that they may feel they need to do. So it's really understanding, who your partners are, what companies may you need to partner with. Again, if you go onto the Cloud Adoption Framework, there's a whole section on CAF ready partners, specialist partners. If there's something very unique or specific you're looking to do, browse the website and you will find those partners that can work with you and understand what it is that you're looking to do and help you with that journey. So when it comes to CAF, I've just put together a few links there, just really a few next steps, I guess, on CAF. If you do aka.ms/adopt, that'll take you straight into the CAF documentation. I've just called out a few other key areas on that. I'll quickly blast through a few of the pages. So it's a Microsoft Docs website. Like I say, you know, everything we've just talked about. If you want to drill down into any great length of detail, we've got strategy. You can click on some of these things and you can see there's a lot of data in there, a lot of detail that you can read through, and it's like it for every phase. So obviously I'm not going to profess to click on that and go through it. All I will say is you can read it verbatim, start to finish, but remember, it's a framework. It's about understanding, reflecting on what challenges you or your business are currently faced with, and, you know, delving in at that level potentially. This resources, tools, and templates gives us a link. So these are all the hyperlinks that you just saw on the slide there. And I'll just call out a couple of them quickly. So the cloud journey tracker, it's essentially, it's a series of questions. So to save a little bit of time, I've gone through and answered just randomly a couple of questions. And at the back end, what it does, it kind of spits out this little red, amber, green status check, really to, you know, give you a bit of a temperature check on where you think you are in terms of what you're doing with the cloud. Have you thought about every angle? Have you considered every approach? And as you can see from a strategy point of view, apparently my answers were excellent, but believe me, this was just a random clicky on radio buttons and drop-down boxes. So the other good thing is what that does, if you run through that cloud journey or the cloud journey tracker, like I say, links are in the cloud, the CAF docs, it will, you know, if you answer them honestly and straightforwardly, it'll give you a series of recommended actions. So these will all link back to documents and artifacts within the cloud adoption framework, but it'll help draw your focus to those specific areas. So it's quite a good tool, really. You know, if you are mature in your way of thinking at the moment, or you think you are, I would advise you to still go and answer these questions, because there'll always be something that you haven't thought about and thought, oh, okay, yeah, I've maybe missed security there. Who knows? So that's one of the tools. Like I say, it's all free of charge to use. There's no harm in running through it. The other one I wanted to quickly show you was this sort of integration. So there's a CAF demo essentially that will drop all of these these epics, these features, and these tasks into an Azure DevOps boards area that, you know, we can click on it. So I'm looking to start on my strategy. I can see that I've got a child item here to define my adoption strategy, and that drills down into I need to create my business case. So it's really a little bit of a paint by numbers. If you're looking to start off day one with greenfield, you're moving something to the cloud, you've not done it before, it's great. You know, it gives that kind of guided click around, right, what do I need to do now? Okay, I need to define my business outcomes. Right, okay, so there we go. I've got a link there that I can click on. It'll take me off to how do I define my business outcomes? So it's really nice little set of things that you can kind of click through, and look, let's face it, you can assign them and use it as well, and define and deploy straight from Azure DevOps if you wanted to as well. I think if I can move that out of the way somehow. Was there anything else there? Yeah, the other one I was going to quickly show was just this governance. So all the way to the other end of the scale on the CAF documentation, we've got this concept of governance. So really, from a benchmarking point of view, again, this is a questionnaire that I've clicked and just, you know, in true Blue Peter style, this is one I made earlier. But really, it looks at the industry kind of baseline, which is this grey bar here, and based on your answers, it will define, you know, where you want to be and where you currently are. So it will help you from a governance point of view. Really put a bit of structure around your focus areas. What should you be looking at? The kind of things that you should be focused on. So yeah, I mean, from a tooling point of view, I just wanted to quickly call those out. How are we doing for time? Yeah, 10, 15 minutes, I guess. And that's about it from a CAF point of view, the stuff that I was going to cover for now. Like I say, jump into it. There's a lot of information in there. You don't have to read it start to finish. Find where your business is or where your particular pain point is at the moment, and there's some great guidance and some great knowledge in there that you can hopefully help your business. Right, let me just flick back to the slides. Okay, quick sip of water. So enterprise scale. Before I get started heavily on enterprise scale. I mean, there's lots of names and things like that kind of get banded around. You've got enterprise scale, you've got enterprise scale landing zones. There's concepts of blueprints, and there was a landing zone before that's available from GitHub. I wanted to try and frame this a little bit if I can, so and where enterprise scale is coming from. So this concept, there are kind of two trains of thought when it comes to, if you remember how this relates to CAF in that plan phase, or ready phase, sorry, when you want to deploy something into Azure, you can either really start small, put a very small, landing zone in there that just comprises, something that, your business may be reusing. So, log analytics workspaces, some storage accounts, key vault, maybe you put the migrate appliance and the workspace for that in there. You've got a single VNet in a single resource group in a single subscription. Start small and grow out. And then you've got the other end of the scale, I guess, where you can look at enterprise scale and say, well, okay, enterprise scale is really, it's about deploying my environment. And apologies that this, I'll zoom into a better image in a second when we go on to GitHub. But the concept behind enterprise scale is really defining at the management group level. So if you've not heard of what management groups are, we'll cover that quickly in a second. But really splitting off your Azure subscriptions, maybe you've got multiple subscriptions, one containing resources for a particular landing zone, one containing resources for your identity management, one containing resources for your networking. It's about having that kind of modular approach and setting up multiple subscriptions. And how do you define the guide rails for who can put what in what subscription? So you're really talking about that ability to scale up. So enterprise scale, it's not just suited for enterprise sized customers. You could absolutely use this as a small customer, but sometimes it might be overkill. So really understanding when you need to use this kind of start small and expand, and when it might make sense to jump straight in with enterprise scale is a key part of this. And again, information on how you might want to make those choices are in CAF, in the CAF documentation, and I'll touch on a couple of those at the end of this. So I just wanted to call that out before we started. So we're going to focus a little bit on enterprise scale now. So what is enterprise scale? So it's a reference architecture. So really it answers that question: how do we create landing zones in Azure? It's recommended. It's a recommended set of patterns that's been validated by Microsoft engineering teams. So it's adaptable to accommodate whatever your requirements are. And it's really aimed at accelerating that onboarding of new workloads. It's having that consistent policy-based framework to deploying your landing zones. And of course, it's built using native tooling. So it concentrates on using Azure policy and management groups. So like I said earlier, CAF, enterprise scale fits in as one of the elements within the ready phase of CAF. So I thought I'd drill into this because it's quite an evolving area at the moment within Microsoft, and it's quite some cool features coming out with it. So we'll delve into those in a second. So from a perspective of, where does enterprise scale fit in? So enterprise scale has got 8 critical design areas. When we talk about landing zones, we're really focused on this third item, management groups. And that's really where the landing zone. So enterprise scale in itself covers those 8 critical design areas that you can see there on the screen. But landing zones is focused on the management group structure. So as I said earlier as well, enterprise scale focuses heavily on using Azure blueprints, Azure policy, beg your pardon. So what is Azure policy? Well, Azure policy is really, it's about setting those standards at scale, as it suggests. So being able to apply a policy onto a subscription or a resource group or some area of your Azure environment that will enable you to have resource consistency. If you've got regulatory compliance that you're looking to adhere to, whatever those rules or compliance levels are, there are sets of starter policies in there. You can tweak and fine tune as you need to. Having a standard set of security baselines in place across your organization set by policy. And again, from a cost and a management of the environment, these, putting policies in place is a really good thing and really sensible when it comes to the governance side. Policies are put in place, we'll dip into it quickly, but just to call out one element on policies as well is that this is a typical, it's JSON format, and this is a typical rule when it gets applied. One of the elements of applying a policy is you've got this kind of parameter you can set of deploy if not exist. So you've got the concept now of being able to deploy stuff, whether it be an ARM template, whether it be hooking up a VM to diagnostics, log analytic workspace, through the diagnostic settings. You've got the ability to define that in policy now, rather than writing that as a code or via a pipeline or whatever it may be. So again, you've got various different options there, and clearly defining something in policy may not be advisable over putting it through a pipeline, CI/CD pipeline, that methodology, or clicking and creating it through the portal. The point is, I call out this deploy if not exist because it's a good talking point, to be honest. That lots of people I've spoken with about deploy if not exist have had mixed feelings, because you can do things like, you can spin up anything in Azure. If it doesn't exist, I can define a policy to go and give me a VNet, attach a bunch of VMs and do X, Y, Z. Now that's great, but traditionally you might be doing all that through another mechanism, and that's fine, but the point is there may be things that are better suited to deploy if not exists, as opposed to doing things as you traditionally might be doing with pipeline, things like that. So it's about configuring resources with diagnostic settings. That's an example. We might want to enable Security Center on new subscriptions, or configure VMs with Azure Backup. They may be a few things that you want to do with that. And why? So I suppose one of the good things to call out about deploy if not exist is with Azure policy, you've got that compliance reporting built straight into the product natively. So if you try to deploy something via policy and it's failed or there's an error, you're going to get that compliance built in, and you can see when something is or isn't compliant. So just a couple of quick key resources to call out on policy is that there are a few different repos. Again, these are all hyperlinks, so I'll make the deck available. But there's, from a policy and Azure policy perspective, all the built-in policies are there in GitHub. There's a really good community repo that's actually, a lot of the time is built with Microsoft engineering team. They'll put it in there, but it gets evolved and added to and worked on by the community. So there's some really good sets of custom policy there. And of course, in enterprise scale itself, when you deploy enterprise scale, you do get a lot of policy definitions with that as well. So we'll quickly jump in a second, I think, to look at, where shall I go? Let's go onto the web page. So, right, first off, from an enterprise scale perspective, this is your repo, Azure/enterprise scale. I've just cloned it into my own GitHub. I got a private repo here for enterprise scale. And just as an example, now I'm not going to deploy it from here because I've already deployed it to my Azure tenant, but I'll quickly look at it. So this enterprise scale, if we scroll down a little bit, we can see we've got three options. And these are kind of three architected options that Microsoft have put up there. So we've got one that's looking at an on-prem connectivity using Azure vWAN. We've got one that's a hub and spoke connectivity option, and then one that we've just simply got on a landing zone in Azure only. There's no on-prem requirements for network connectivity. We can click on these. We can have a quick look at some little diagrams and drawings. So remember that landing zones in enterprise scale are around creating these management group structures. And these management group structures is where we define and set our Azure policy that would act on any subscriptions that are held within these management groups. So it's really quite a strong and powerful thing that you can actually define here. And what this enterprise scale, so what this GitHub repo is actually containing is the ability to, we'll click on this Contoso and you can see it'll give us a little bit about what this actually covers off. But if we scroll down, I think, there we go. So this is the management structure that the Contoso deployment would put in place. So it would deploy these management groups. It would ask me to select a couple of, if I've got multiple subscriptions, where do I want to place these subscriptions? So which subscription would I want to use for my management area, for my platform? Which subscription would I want to use as a specific landing zone? And these can be grown, these management groups grown horizontally to contain various different applications over time. You can set different management groups. You can set your RBAC, your policy, all at those levels, so that you've really got that enterprise scale. It also deploys a whole bunch of policy, and there's some good diagrams. So take a look at that. GitHub is my advice there. But what I'm going to do is, I mean, again, we can click on deploy to Azure. I'm going to just quickly sign into my Azure account, which of course has signed me out. Let me just approve that. So there we go. I'm signed into my tenant, and we just get this basic ARM sort of template for custom deployment. We can pick where we want to put it from a metadata point of view. And really, we work through this. So if from a management group, we can define a prefix. You can see, I mean, for the one I've deployed, I've just selected J. There's a story behind that I won't get into just yet, but I just selected J. We click on to this next task about platform management, security, and governance. We've got a whole range of log analytics data. You know, how long do I want to keep it for? Do I want to deploy a log analytics workspace? Yes. How long do I want to keep the data for? Which subscription do I want to use for my management subscription? So I might want to use my M subscription, which is management. Do I want to deploy a health solution? And you know, if you click on this, it'll tell you what it is. And if you go to the documents, it'll tell you actually what it's doing. But that is, you know, essentially that will be deploying those agents onto VMs and like. So you've got a whole bunch of options that you can sit through and work on there. And because I've gone through the Contoso one, I can deploy a V1 if I want, a V1 hub. And then when it comes to the landing zone, again, I've got a whole bunch of options. And these are basically just turning policy on and off. And a lot of these things are baked in at the policy level. So if I found one in there to create, you know, a VNet, that will be baked into the policy itself and creating that VNet without any other interaction, essentially just putting answers to a few variables. We click review and create. This will probably fail because I've already got one. So like I say, we won't wait for that to finish. We'll jump on. This is what you end up with. So if we cast our mind back to the diagram, the management groups, these are the management groups that we have set up for us. So we have a decommissioned area, landing zones, platform, sandboxes. So if I click on landing zones, I've got one called J Online. And you know, these could be whatever your naming convention needs to be. It's a way of organizing your subscriptions. And I've got my subscription, my landing zone subscription is in there. Okay, great. So if I want to look at, right, what have I done with that now? So on J Online, I got one policy assignment. So I got one policy assignment called deny VNet peering. Okay, so it's going to stop me, anybody in that subscription, from creating any VNet peering. Great. Okay, so I could come in here and I could click around and do a little bit with that. But I just wanted to quickly show you from a perspective of not being able to get to my tab at the top of the screen. Where my GitHub has gone. So what I've done, just to, you know, from a demo perspective, just to try and show how this all kind of hangs together, I've kind of just brought that GitHub repo down into my local VS Code here. So as somebody sat in, you know, wherever, an IT team, a DevOps team, whatever it may be doing, I got the ability now to, from a programmatic perspective, actually change my policy and push that back up into GitHub and have GitHub fire off a GitHub action and actually just deploy that straight to my Azure tenant. So I just picked one quickly, and I know I'm kind of pushing time a little bit at the minute, but what I'll quickly show you is that if you see this structure here, you can see that the J is my, essentially, you've got a tenant root group. J is my business name, so that could be my business. I just chose J. And if you remember my management group level, I've got the decommissioned landing zones, platform, sandboxes. So if we drill into landing zone, only because I know, because I put it there ready to just show you this demo, I've got one. So there's all my policy definitions. Yeah. So if I wanted to change any policy and I knew what it was, for example, SQL auditing settings. Yeah. You can see we've got, I don't want that to deploy if it doesn't exist. You can alter that, save it, check that in on a different branch, and the world is great. So these are my definitions, and I've actually assigned one of those definitions at the J Online level. And you can see that was the one that we were just looking at. If I flick back to there. So my deny vnet peering -mod1 is essentially, this is my policy. So just to prove a point here, I'm going to create a new branch. I call it mod2. I'm going to change that to mod2. I'm going to save it. And I'm hoping it's going to check back in. Okay, mod2. So the idea is now, with a bit of luck, that has not gone up there. There it is. The joys of using GUI rather than typing, eh? So let's see, hopefully that should have now gone up to my GitHub. So from a GitHub perspective, we can see that mod2 has got some recent changes. So, I mean, the way that this AZOps or AZOps is working within GitHub Actions at the moment is that it relies on that merge into the main branch rather than just checking it straight into main for obvious reasons. So I've got my setting branch mod2. Well, let's have a quick compare of that pull request. Well, mod2, okay, we can look at the detail. But if I just create a pull request now to merge that in with the main branch, what it's going to kick off in the background in a second, so there's no conflicts, but we should hopefully see in a second that it kicks off this AZOps push. So there's a pipeline that's been kicked off that we can just have a quick look in the details. It takes a minute or two to run. So hopefully by the time I keep waffling and talk you through this, it should run through. But essentially, this is using GitHub Actions. And what we're expecting here is that this pull request is essentially getting merged into main. It's kicking off that action, that push into our Azure tenancy. So at some point within the next minute or two, I would hope that I can refresh this page and you can see that it genuinely has pushed it straight through, and it's modified that policy that's been assigned at that specific management group level within my Azure tenant. So hopefully demonstrating that the power that you've got now is to actually work with your go from CAF, understand why you want to move things into the cloud, to putting those guide rails in place with the governance piece and actually really moving in and being able to manage that at scale from a programmatical way. Let's click on details. There's not much more I can talk about really. Okay. It shouldn't take too much longer. It's the famous thing. So there we go. That's errored in typical true fashion. So you take my word for it, that normally works. So yeah, I mean, if we quickly refresh that one, I mean, sometimes it errors on something. There we go. It's pushed it through. It's errored on something that I'm not really bothered about right now. But you can see the general theme there. So on that note, we'll spring back to the slides. I think there's just a couple of quick finishing off slides we've got. So again, implementation for considering, remember what I said about start small and grow or delve straight into enterprise scale. There's a few things to consider. So don't rule out the fact that there are third-party offerings. So from a partner, there's partner landing zones, there's partner IP that has been developed and designed that you can maybe leverage if you find that right partner. And there's also third-party tooling that can be wrapped around this. So things like Terraform, and there is a CAF Terraform module available. Really good things to keep in mind. Also, another key concept, again, this is part of CAF, part of the same phase, is really understanding what your current cloud operating model is. You know, are you a one-stop shop IT department, or have you got this massive distributed operations globally? You know, how you approach CAF and what you do with enterprise scale landing zones will undoubtedly differ from one to the other. And there's some really good guidance on when you might want to, you know, the kinds of things that you can expect from that. You know, do I start small and expand? What are my limitations? When might I want to do that? There's some really great information in there to really help you make those decisions. So on that note, that's probably brought the CAF and the enterprise scale piece to a close for now. Again, I've listed some how do I get started links in there. Hopefully they will be a benefit to you. You can just quickly jump in there into those areas and have a little play around. And that's me. But before I finish, I just wanted to do a self-plug, being that Liam was plugging everything earlier on. I run the Welsh Azure user group with a bunch of guys and gals from Microsoft and the surrounding businesses in South Wales. We've got, really chuffed to get Abel Wang and April Edwards joining us on the 10th of December for what we're calling a very merry DevOps. So if you're interested, please do sign up and come and say hello, and remember to wear your Christmas hats and bring some lights and tinsel. And on that note, I think I'm slightly over, Liam. Apologies, but I think we got there.
That's great, John.
Any questions? Happy to answer them or forward them through to me at another time.
Cool, fantastic. So if anybody has any questions for John now, please use the raise your hand feature in Zoom, or if you prefer to type them out, please do so. If you're watching from YouTube, drop them in the chat in there. We've got a couple of minutes for those. And if not, we can take a quick break for pop to the loo, grabbing tea, gin, etc. We can go from there. Cool. Okay. So, thank you very much, John, for coming along to give us a talk about the Cloud Adoption Framework. That was really, really enlightening and really in depth as well, because as someone myself who deals with it fairly regularly as well, it's quite a big topic without really realizing it as well.
Yes. One word answer, yes.
So, folks, it's 7:45 now. So let's take a brief break. And what we'll do is let's give it 5 minutes or so to go away, grab brew, nip to the loo, etc. And then we'll pick up with Derek at 10 to 8. And in the meantime, if you haven't yet, you can enter our competition this evening and tweet with the hashtag DevOps Notts, and we will be able to do the prize draw at the end of the evening. In the meantime, obviously, you can also feel free to stick around it and chat with folks whilst we get going. All right. I think what I'm going to do is order me pizza.
Ooh, what pizza are you having?
I don't know. So Domino's have started doing a pizza with Donna meat on.
I have seen this. I had a Domino's on Friday.
I feel
Was
like
it
it's
good?
the right choice. I had it like when it first came out,
Yeah.
and but I took like most of the stuff off of it, left the Donna meat, added tandoori chicken,
obviously,
and it was great. Loved it.
Excellent. Very good. I'm never adventurous. I just go for the same one. I always create my own. I'm a bit weird with my pizza toppings, but I've got it down to a fine art for my own taste, though. I have pineapple on there. Might be controversial.
Pineapple on a pizza.
What?
I'm all in on pineapple on pizza.
Excellent, Liam. I knew there was a reason I liked you.
And mushrooms. Not with pineapple. Oh, actually, yeah, sometimes with pineapple.
No.
If I liked mushrooms, then yeah, but no, I'm with Derek.
Nah, no mushrooms. I don't mind mushrooms, but there's certain things that mushrooms just shouldn't go with, and one of them is pizza.
How do you feel about pineapple?
I actually see with ham and pineapple is fine. I can't imagine it with anything else.
Mate, have you not tried it with chorizo or pepperoni?
To be honest, that would
sound like it could work pretty well.
It does. It very much does.
I think, to be honest, I would eat anything with chorizo. But, like dip it in dog shit, and I'm all over it.
Well, I've got a starter for you. My pizza is always the same, and I have chorizo, jalapenos, but only the ones like from the old El Paso jars, like the kind of vinegary ones, because I like vinegar. And red onions, pineapple. Yeah, red onions, pineapple, chorizo, jalapenos. Boom, done.
That was quite nice.
It is. It balances all of the different flavors. I've thought about this quite a lot.
I quite like just like a Hawaiian with ham, pineapple, and mushroom with extra cheese, stuffed crust.
You
Yeah.
done well until you said mushroom.
He's try harder, didn't he?
No, mushroom, no. I like mushrooms, but it's like with steak and stuff like that. No, I don't know. It's like people have mushrooms with their breakfast.
No, thank you. No.
Yeah.
No. Some people put like capers and like,
Oh no, that's weird.
olives,
I like an olive.
anchovies.
Love an olive. Not on pizza. Just on their own.
Apparently, like, so your taste buds change so much as you get older, and you taste bitterness less and less as you get older, and that's why people tend to like olives the older they get.
Oh,
There you go. I must really like them then.
I'm starting to come around to them. As soon as I hit 30, I had an olive, and boom, I get it now.
That olives in red wine.
Yeah, fair play. I'll have to give that a whirl.
Oh, to be honest, red wine men generally goes.
There's only, yeah, that is a problem. But yeah, the tannins are good for you though. So I just don't. I've only found like 2 red wines that I've ever liked, and I don't know the names of them.
My problem's the opposite. It's hard for me to find red wine I don't like. Mine's is like it's a Spanish Tempranillo, which is mostly what I drink. It's beautiful. It's like Cape Viejo or something like that. It's like
oh yeah,
that's so nice. That Tempranillo, yeah.
I like White Zinfandel. I have spent a lot of my life drinking wine that I didn't like, and then I hit upon White Zinfandel, and I was like, right, I'm remembering this, and it's beautiful.
I quite like that, but I think I prefer spirits to wine these days.
Depends what mood I'm in. Wine makes me angry if I'm already angry. Don't know why. Gin makes me happy. And it's weird because they call it Mother's Ruin. But
What, gin?
Yeah.
I did not know that. Why?
Because it ruins mothers, Liam.
Oh, okay.
Obviously.
Fair.
I don't know.
Right. Good point.
I actually don't know, but I know that it basically, like, years and years ago, like I started to like gin when everybody else when it wasn't cool, and people were like, oh, you shouldn't drink that.
Cool.
It's Mother's
when
Ruin.
It wasn't somebody's excuse for a personality.
Yes, that's that's a brutal way of putting it. Fair play. Yeah, but yeah, Mother's Ruin. I'm gonna look into it. I wonder which mothers it ruined and how. Huh?
Everybody's,
yeah. Everybody who got close to gin.
Right, I'm going to
folks.
on my slide deck.
Yeah. So it is just over 10 to 8. So let's give a big DevOps Notts welcome to Derek. And thank you for coming, Derek. The joys of this evening, it's worth pointing out, the joys of being able to do this remotely at the moment is we wouldn't have been able to have John or Derek join us tonight because John is in South Wales, I think, from where we were just talking before, and Derek is across the border in Scotland.
Yeah, it's like to be honest, we just need an Irishman, and then we've got a joke.
And walk in a bar.
Okay, so hello, I'm Derek Campbell. I'll jump in. The initial bit's just a slide deck, and then it's mostly demo. If you do hear my dogs in the background, I'm sorry, but they are in bed with my wife who's unwell at the moment. Okay, so I'm Derek Campbell. I'm a senior solutions architect at Octopus Deploye. Yeah, so let's just jump in. What are RUNBOOKS? Well, RUNBOOKS have been about for some time now. They used to actually start out as bits of paper. It's more on the ops side of things. It used to be, you would probably get someone who joined a company and then, a bit of paper would get passed about, or it'd be a bit of paper that if X happens, do Y, if this, then that. And what we've released this year at Octopus is RUNBOOKS. We released it at the beginning of the year, and you can use them for a whole bunch of stuff. I love it. To be honest, I've been a big fan of Octopus. Obviously, I work there, so I kind of have to be a fan. But at the same time, I really do love Octopus Deploye. I've been using it since for about 8 years now, on and off. But RUNBOOKS is awesome. I've used it as a deployment tool, but RUNBOOKS for me, I come from an operations background, so I kind of moved in from help desk to system administration to system architect to then like, hey, wait a minute, I'm just going to go and be this DevOps thing. So anyway, but RUNBOOKS used to automate lots of stuff. You can use it for to automate routine configuration, things like setting up servers, ARM templates, CloudFormation, etc. Maintenance, for instance, doing SQL backups, emergency operations tasks. Node 1 is offline, remove it from the load balancer, and lots of other cool stuff like database management, server updates. I actually use it. I've got a server just down here that's got 192 gig of RAM and 32 cores, and I use it. I've got something like 27 virtual machines. Don't ask, but yeah, from there I use it for all my Windows updates because hey, Windows updates need to be done, but you don't need to enjoy doing them. And I'll show you I'll show you all this as part of my demo. So why would you use RUNBOOKS? Well, why would you not use RUNBOOKS? You can use it for just so many different things. To be honest, it's super flexible. If you can script it, then Octopus can run it as a runbook. Also, if you are using Octopus as a deployment tool, then obviously there are a bunch of stuff that you can use like variables, and there's lots of stuff there. We've got something like 500 step templates that you can use as part of any runbook. So yeah, Octopus RUNBOOKS. So Octopus RUNBOOKS, we support Python, PowerShell, Bash, C#, F#. I'm going to give you a quick demo on Azure automation as well. So here you can use it for configuration management, desired state, etc. And also because you're running it within Octopus, you can actually also automatically have an inventory of your system. You can also use it for updates. So like for instance, WSUS updates, scheduled updates, maintenance, and so forth. Azure Automate. It does almost everything that Octopus does. Sometimes it does a little bit more. And I love Azure Automate as well. Python scripts, PowerShell, desired state, etc. All that good stuff. So let's actually jump in. I am just going to do a high level demo of Azure automation. If you're not using Azure automation, then please do, because honestly, it's awesome. So yeah, what you can do here is you can log on, and what I like, I'll jump straight to the one that I like. Again, coming from an ops background, I hate Windows updates. They suck. They kill me. They slowly kill me, and they slowly make me dead inside. And what you can do is, one of my favorite bits is the update management. You can come in and see exactly what servers. So for instance, you can see that my SQL boxes are needing some updates. Yep. So that, but yeah, let's actually go back and do a bit more. So what we've got here, you can do your inventory. So like Octopus, you can also use it for inventory management. You'll see here that we have a bunch of VMs that we use with Azure Automate. You can use it for things like change tracking. So any sort of changes that have happened. I really do like this service. And then what I was saying earlier on about RUNBOOKS, you can also have your own Azure Automate RUNBOOKS. So like here.
Sorry, just to interrupt. Could you zoom in a little bit on your browser, please?
I certainly can. That's a good point. So yeah, so you've got things like you can use PowerShell. You've got graphical RUNBOOKS, which are really cool. And then from here, you've also got RUNBOOKS Gallery. So like, for instance, if you want to start an Azure V2 VM, you can just grab that, download it, use it, and then get on with it, your day. So, all right. And then from there, you've also got, skipping over these, you can also do things like certificates. Again, that's something else. What I generally find RUNBOOKS does is take something that you don't really want to do and automates it. And this is the benefit. And one of the benefits here is you can also use both Octopus and Azure Automate to stop VMs, turn them back on. That's one of the, do you honestly, it's the biggest single cost saving that I can honestly recommend is turn off your virtual machines. And you can use both Azure Automate and Octopus RUNBOOKS for that. Conscious of the time, so that's Azure Automate. What I'm going to be doing now is demos. So let's jump in. So I'm going to be deploying this. I like graphic. I like to show it, don't just tell it. So this is what I'm going to be deploying. I'm going to be deploying to Dev. You'll notice here you've got Azure DevOps, which pushes its packages to Octopus. This is purely from a deployment perspective. And then from here, we're deploying to a virtual machine, a rate service box, and also a SQL box. You'll notice here I've got a jump box. The main reason for a jump box in this architecture is that you generally don't install the Octopus tentacle on a SQL server from a security standpoint. Test is the same. The only difference really is test up here. Production, again, is very similar. What we've got here is it's almost identical. The only difference is production is highly available. So you've got Prod Web 1 and Prod Web 2. And then you also notice that we've got the rate service virtual machine. And then if you come in again, you've got SQL. And then lastly, we actually have disaster recovery. So that's OctoFX. So I just want to give you some high level information about OctoFX. It makes more sense with that context. So OctoFX is a sample application that we built to demonstrate multi-tier application deployments. OctoFX is a fictitious London-based foreign exchange company that you and businesses can use to buy foreign exchange to make some money. It's got a customer-facing website. It's underpinned by an MS SQL database, and the rate service I was telling you about earlier on. What that does is, as we see the pound tank due to Brexit, then what actually happens is that foreign exchange rate changes during the day. So you can use that to update the rate. Okay, so, and just what, there is no smoke and mirrors here. There's a full CI/CD pipeline in place, but we'll leave that for now. Okay, so I've got 2 demos for you today. Most of it will be based around OctoFX. We do also have another one called Octo Pet Shop. You may see a common naming convention there. So what you've got, this is Octopus. You've got your project. So down here, you've got your releases. Across the top, you've got your environments. We were making jokes about this earlier on. In this instance, we only have 4 environments, not 4,000. So yeah, so what you've got is a deployment process. You're probably wondering why we're in the deployment process while we're talking about RUNBOOKS, because you'll see down here, RUNBOOKS is actually something that sits outside of the deployment process. The benefit with Octopus RUNBOOKS is that you can actually use them in your project or cross-project as well. But in this instance, I don't want to cover the deployments too much, but here we've got some SQL stuff. We're creating a SQL user on the fly. We've got the create database if it doesn't exist, etc. Then we're doing some bits with SQL. The main bit is the end goal here is just to make sure that we have a user that we can deploy a database to. Then we're deploying the database. After that, we're deploying the Windows service, and then we're stopping IIS, deploying the website, starting it, and then writing out the public URL. And one thing just to be aware here is with this, you've got an approval. This is a manual intervention step. Again, one of my favorite steps, because normally what I find is even RUNBOOKS, deployment processes, etc., they normally require some form of approval. So you'll normally find there's a project manager or potentially your boss or even the customer, and they can approve all that using the manual intervention step. So what we have is, I actually have one that I did earlier on. So we'll come into production. And then what I've got is I'm writing out the URL. So you'll see here that we have a working website. You can see at the top, it's running on OctoFX2. This is something I'm using variable, so I substitute out. The main reason is just to show you what is running on where. So what you've got here, we've got the working website. Everything's great. So we come down to RUNBOOKS. So you've got the overview of RUNBOOKS. So that's a deployment aspect. I don't want to focus on that. Oh, just one thing just to be aware of. You can actually see this live. So if you go to samples.octopus.app, which I'll just zoom in a little bit more. So you'll see up here, samples.octopus.app. You can log in as guests. I'd ask you not to do that just now, because if suddenly 30 people joined it, it would slow down a little bit. So what you've got here is over the overview, there's a bunch of RUNBOOKs that happen. So what you've got is RUNBOOKs. So, sorry, actually, let's take a step back. You've got a deployment process, and you'll only ever have a single deployment process per project. But with RUNBOOKs, you can have one deployment processes to n number of RUNBOOKs. Similar, you have RUNBOOKs, and you can have n number of triggers. So what we've got here is a bunch of RUNBOOKs. Again, go back to what I was saying earlier on about applying Windows updates. You've got this one that I actually see quite a lot of people doing is code normally starts out in development, and then it goes, sorry, you can't actually see that because of my virtual background. You can only really see the shadow. So what happens is code goes forward, but data goes back. It will normally originate in production and then join in the middle and test so that you can run your tests. So in this instance, we are actually backing up and restoring the SQL database from production back to any environment. What you've got here is a bunch of other stuff, installing dependencies, IIS, and then there's some failover stuff. So what we're going to do now is we're going to have a quick look at triggers. Triggers are something that you can use. So for instance, with updates, I can actually have that go to development straight after Patch Tuesday on the 2nd Wednesday. Then I'm going to test on the 3rd Wednesday, production on the 4th Wednesday at 11 AM, and then disaster recovery, which is only online for deployments, goes at 11 PM at night. Again, you can go here. So what we're going to do here is we're restoring production data to disaster recovery every evening. We're then restoring to test and then doing dev once a week. There's a bunch of here stuff where we're actually starting up VMs and then turning them off again. The main reason just to save some money. Yeah, and then we've got some upgrades. So I use Chocolate a lot because Chocolate is awesome, and you can use it to install VS Code, etc. So yeah, so that's your triggers. So let's actually break some stuff and see, and it does work, honest. So what we're going to do is we're going to stop the IIS app pool. So select run. And then I'm going to select production. At this point, I'm going to break production. So this is now going to happen is it's now going to grab prod 1, prod 2, and stop the app service. This is running a little bit slow. Oh, there we go. So there we go. Off we go. We should see that under here, we should see that the website goes offline. One of the things, a cool thing that I came up with was about 9 months ago now, Octopus.com was going offline. Kept getting gateway errors. The problem turned out to be a third party, but obviously we don't have access to production, you know, in line with best practices. And one of the things that we did occasionally have to do was rely on someone with production access to restart the web app. What was actually happening was it was just timing out. So we were then, you'd be errors coming up. We wouldn't even know because we didn't have access to monitoring, etc. And I did have access to restart, but I'd have to go in, find the right Azure web app, restart it. It was laborious at best. What I actually managed to do there was create a manual, a check. I actually used Octopus for monitoring. It would check it, make sure that it was returning a 200 code. If it wasn't, it restarted the Azure web app. So what we should see is if we come back here, what do you know? The website's offline. One thing that I did there was it was something that ran every 5 minutes on a cron task, on a cron schedule. And one of the things it did do is it monitors the primary website and fails over. The only reason I don't have it turned on just now is that with the failover, I don't want to come on before my talk and it's actually already on disaster recovery. So what I'm just going to do, I am going to show you the runbook, but I just want to run it because it does take some time. So there we go. We've ran it for disaster recovery. Whilst that's happening, I'll actually show you. So something, again, you can use triggers so that you can run this every 60 seconds, every 2 minutes. But let's have a look at the process. So within your process, what you actually have is a HTTP test. It is very rudimentary. All it's doing is going to www.octopussamples.com. And it's like, yeah, if you give me back a 200, I'll move on with the rest of my day and I'll come back in 60 to 300 seconds later. Now, what we then have is if this is unavailable, what it's going to do is it's going to go ahead and start the web server. At that point, you'll see here there's a little, some lines. Actually, I'll zoom in a little bit more. You'll see these just about here. So what this does is it starts the web server and the SQL server, both at the same time, and it's run in parallel. And then at that point, I'm going to just zoom out a little bit. At that point, what we have is some easy CLI. I've just got a resource group. I've got a zone name set as a variable. I've got obviously set in the DR IP and then the production IP. At this point, it's just an easy CLI command that is effectively switching production and disaster recovery about. Same idea, you've got this down here. So hopefully I've sacrificed enough to the demo gods today that this should be running. So let's go back to tasks. So yeah, so what we're doing just now is we are running the primary. So what this should be doing is just spinning up disaster recovery. So we see here, there we go. So we'll wait for that to go ahead. Another task, whilst that's happening in the background, what I also want to do is show you the backup and restore SQL. I wish I had this before, I'm not going to lie. So I can select run. I also, actually, one thing that I do need to do, one thing that I like about this is I can use Markdown and I can use use text to effectively give myself a chance of understanding. Because, you know, it's like you do something and then suddenly you come back 6 months later and you forgot. So like here, use some nice notes. In this instance, if you select disaster recovery, it will restore to disaster recovery. Right now, disaster recovery is offline. So let's do a test. So select run. From here, we're now going to select test and then select run. Okay. So as obviously, if you go back to the process, what this is doing is, you'll notice here that it looks a lot like a deployment process. Again, same idea. You've got a manual intervention for production only. The main reason here is you don't really want to deploy production to production. You can though, in a way, you know, you can. So if you had to do a restore test, that's something that you can factor in. But this is just a safety check. Are you sure? Is it, you know, from that aspect? So what we've got here, we've actually got a limit as part of your settings. So what you can do here, you've got your development, test, and disaster recovery. You'll notice here that I can't actually run it in production now. So yeah. So what we've got, it looks a lot like the deployment process. From here, we're just backing up the SQL database in production. We're then obviously stopping the app pull. This is in test, not in production. We're then restoring the database. You can, by all means, go in and have a look at the script. So yeah, what we've got here is some settings where we're using Octopus variables. So again, one of the benefits here is with Octopus, you set variables. I will show you that, but you can share variables between RUNBOOKS and deployment processes. So in this instance, I've got some database name, the server, the same backup directory, admin username, password, so forth. Then from there, we're then creating the user again. We're doing that SQL wizardry. And then from here, we're starting the app pool. We're then starting the Windows service and then writing out the URL. I'm a big fan of this. This is something I like to do, mostly because I'm lazy. I don't like to click on URLs. So like that, just tell me the URL so I can click and make sure that I can do it. Again, this is just a custom little cheeky script that works. Okay, so let's go back to the RUNBOOKS overview. So whilst that's happening, it doesn't normally take this long, if I'm being honest. So let's have a quick look at the overview. So that actually, I'm expecting this to fail. The main reason this failed is because the website's offline. So what we should see is everything's came up. Right, everybody got their fingers crossed? This is honest. This is definitely live. You see here the app pool is just spinning up. 2 seconds. And then what we should see when it loads, you should see OctoFX-DR, which stands for disaster recovery, meaning you've spun up, you've just started the virtual machine, and then from there you've done this. There we go. I was getting worried there. There we go. So we've got a work in there. We failed it back over. It's running on OctoFX-DR. Now, what we can do here now is actually, whilst that's going on, what I'm just going to do is I am going to jump over my other demo. The main reason for that is it takes about 9 minutes, but unattended, thankfully. So let's jump over. So you'll see here, we've got target paths. This is spaces. So you'll see you can actually switch between our many spaces. In that instance, if you do want to see, it is in the target windows. This one is in target paths, which stands for platform as a service. So I did a webinar recently and I did change this and I've removed my changes, unfortunately. But what I do have is you can actually spin up infrastructure as part of your runbook, deploy your code, and then leave it, and then tear it all back down at the end. So that's often what I do. The main reason is testing by spinning up all your infrastructure. The main benefit here is you save so much money. How many times have we had that where what you find is your cloud spend is off the chart, and just by using RUNBOOKS or Azure Automate, just by turning your virtual machines off, you'll save so much. But the other benefit is you can, for instance, your test server sometimes have been sitting, it's probably been running about for 7 years. It's probably had about 50 versions of .NET installed or thereabouts. It's just full of false negatives, false positives. I like provisioning everything from scratch. The main benefit is you get a better end result. What happens here is you've spun it, you've installed the dependencies. If it's wrong, then when you push it to production, it's still wrong there. Same idea. Generally, if it's working, then once you push it to production, it works. So what I'm going to do here is I am actually going to spin up some infrastructure. So whilst that's happening, I'll just show you quickly. So you've got Octopus Shop. So again, it's still got the deployment process. There's not that much in. We're just doing some deployments. And then from here, we just have our create infrastructure. And all this does, and this is something you can insert, so you can run a runbook from a deployment process. So you can create that infrastructure, deploy to it, and then test it, and then tear it all back down. So in this instance, obviously, you don't really want to do that with production, but you might, for instance, you may have a HR application. And what you might find is from a HR aspect, that doesn't need to be on after 8 p.m. at night. So you could actually use that to turn off your HR system, right? And you can see savings generally between 65% and 90% just by using the infrastructure when you need to. And then you'll see here as well, we do have a destroy infrastructure. This is much easier. That's always the way. Destroying infrastructure, unless it's physical, tends to be easier. So what we've got here is we've just got this. It's just a PowerShell script. It's just using invoke web request PowerShell. The main thing is you've spun up the infrastructure, but Octopus, as much as it knows it's just deployed the infrastructure, doesn't actually include it. So what we do here is we call the Octopus API from within Octopus, and we are actually registering deployment targets as we go. And so this is dynamic infrastructure that you can do. So that's just something to be aware of. this is actually deregistering it. And then lastly, it's just destroying the resource group and taking everything away. So what we should see is that should be underway. Yeah, so I'm going to, at this now, that obviously we're moving back to OctoFX. You can come back here. The main reason is stuff takes time to run. And I can only be so funny for so long. I generally find my funniness lasts for about 45 seconds. And these tasks tend to run for 10 minutes. So, okay, so what we've got here is we're running the backup. So let's just have a quick look. What we've done here is we've connected to the server. We are backing up OctoFX, ProdSQL, West Europe to a file share. From here, we are then stopping the app pool, stop the Windows service. We're then restoring the database. The main reason we're stopping those is how often have you seen that when you try and restore a database and there's still a lock on the database? I'm just removing the locks because it's test only. And then again, we're doing some bits with SQL. We're creating a user, mapping the user to the database. And then lastly, you can see from here, it's been restored. So there we go. We have test and we also have, you guessed it, dev. So all of these are working. What we now have is we still have disaster recovery. I've been on, like before Octopus, I was on call for something like 15 years. It wasn't something I particularly enjoyed. I don't think I've ever heard anybody who says, oh, do you know, I love being on call. But what you can do is, I absolutely hated being on call. It's, I think if anybody who's been on call and had a BlackBerry, you probably know the ringtone I'm talking about when it just gives me a shudder. Anytime, thankfully, I'm happy BlackBerry's effectively dead. So we've done the database restore. Okay, so what we are now going to do is we're going to simulate what it looks like when you come in the morning after being on call and Octopus has automatically fixed something. So you'll come in the morning, disaster recovery still on, because by the time you've got the call, you've logged on, Octopus has fixed it, and you're like, I'm going back to my bed, I'll deal with this in the morning. So what you can do is you probably want to start the app pool, because obviously we took it offline earlier on. And then if you select production, so what we're doing now is we're going to start prod 1 and prod 2. And then we're going to mindfully fail it back. Again, you can have 2 productions and obviously just switch back and forth if required, but generally the data layer doesn't tend to deal with that very well. So at this point, what we are going to do is we're now going to do a manual failover to primary. So there we go. We've got production. We've got this. There we go. We run it. Actually, let's go back and read the notes. Monitor. That's the other one. So manual failover. This is a runbook designed to fail over back from disaster recovery in UK South to Western Europe. Please check all resources are healthy before running this. It must be run in the context for production. So let's run that for production. If you do also, it's a good point. If you do have any questions, just stick them in the chat. Just obviously put them in the chat and I'll be happy to address them at the end. At this point, what we've got is, it looks fairly similar to the monitor and failover. In this instance, it's just the script bit. Obviously, we're not going to turn off any disaster recovery instances. Just whilst we make sure this is all good. What we should see soon is, if you go into tasks, there we go. It's already happened. So what we should see is, if we go back to, oh, that's skill. What we should see is this should change. Hey, we're back to prod 2. So yeah. Obviously, you can use, you get the idea. With that, you can control it for failover. You can even use it for monitor. That, honestly, that was one that I thought was really cool. Okay, so OctoFX is effectively done. So let's just jump in. Just not sure. We can do some more Windows updates. I don't think that's really all that interesting. Lots of stuff here as well. But yeah, certainly check it out. At this point, I'm crossing my fingers. And test has worked. So we should come into infrastructure and we should see, what we should see here is we have development, we have production, we have test. So you see here that there's no development. We use environments and tagging. So you can see test is online, but there's no development, but there is production. So that's good. So what we're going to do now as part of the last bit is I'm going to redeploy this. The main reason is I don't need to go through the full amount. So if you come in, again, one of my favorite bits about this deploy an Azure web app step is that it gives me the URL. That was actually what I was trying to mimic earlier on. So you can see here, we've got a blank Azure web app. So like, hey, maybe let's do a deployment. So from here, redeploy, select, there we go. This does take some time. So what it's now going to do is just to take you through the deployment. It's effectively going to deploy 2020.11.24.1 to test of Octo Pet Shop. Again, as we've already deployed this in the past, it's all in the cache. It's now uploading it. What it's then going to do, Azure, the Octo Pet Shop actually consists of 3 Azure web apps. You've got the customer-facing website. You then have the product service. The product service is pets. So you can buy octopuses or dogs or cats or goldfishes. So like that, yes, obviously you can do that. So this will deploy the product service. And then lastly, the shopping cart service. So the shopping cart service is a shopping cart service. And then your product service is effectively an API. And then it's all underpinned by an MS SQL, Azure SQL instance. So this is going to do the deployment. So actually, I'll give you a quick how this works. So let's jump in. So from here, we actually have a bunch of PowerShell. We have some AZ CLI, and then there's some ARM templates. I like to mix and match. So from here, we've just got here where we're checking to make sure that the resource group is available. If it's not, then what we do is create it. The next step here is we're then deploying the Azure SQL Server. So Johnny earlier on showed you Microsoft GitHub's account. Again, you have Azure Quick Start templates. This is effectively, if you go to GitHub, I think it's Azure and then Azure Quick Start. Google it, you'll find it. Again, same idea. What we've got is an ARM template. So also, as a general rule, you can either use the ARM template in the Quick Start guide. I often find as well, I'll go in and configure everything manually, and then it just export the ARM template at the end, and then it's something I can reuse. So again, we've got some ARM templates, and we've got some variables. For instance, you've got down here, we're substituting the admin username, password, etc. Then, as we have the SQL Server, we want to deploy the empty database so that we can then deploy our database to it. We're then creating an app service plan from there. Again, this is all in ARM. So what you've got, again, this is defined as an ARM template. So it's just a basic database. Then from here, we start to repeat ourselves here. So we've got our app service plan. We then add the product service web app, again, using ARM templates. We are registering using PowerShell. So again, what this is doing is effectively registering itself with Octopus over our API. So we've got some variables where effectively, so we're calling the URL within the server, which is quite cool. And then what we're then doing is performing a health check. You need to run a health check in Octopus before you can deploy to a new bit of infrastructure. And then at this point, you'll see there's another 3 tasks. It's the same 3 tasks that we're doing here for the shopping cart service. And then lastly, for the Octo Pet Shop web app. And then, yeah, so that's that. And then if you come into destroy infrastructure. Again, it's much easier. So we're deregistering, and then we're just straight up using PowerShell to delete the resource script. So at this point, I should have spoken enough. Right, here we go, here we go. Is it going to work? I'm not sure. I'm not sure. There you go. But I'm not going to lie. $100 for a dog. I'm buying all of the dogs, so you best get in there quickly. I've already got 2 dogs. I may land up with 102 if dogs are really that cheap. So at that point, we've built the infrastructure from scratch. We've then deployed the application to it. Very easy to destroy everything. And then from there as well, you can also tear everything down. At that point, I am actually, that was faster than I expected. So, okay, sorry, that was quite loud, wasn't it? So I just want to do a quick bit. I like to do this and just encourage other people, get up, talk. I have imposter syndrome. I'll always have it, I think. It's definitely something that's improved over the years. You know, it's like, but I don't know this. So yeah, biggest tip I can give you about imposters, talk about it. See, by talking about it, it's like it's like a weight. It's like, you know, suddenly your shoulders feel lighter. Talk about it with your family, your wife, your husband, your cats, your dogs, whoever. Just talk about it. The biggest thing I think is talk about it. And if you can talk about it at work. If you can't talk about it at work, I'd maybe look at your working situation. But that's something else. Where possible, try and mentally reinforce yourself. It is very easy to. I know recently, like I've been doing a bunch of Azure exams. I used I forget measurable, and it just destroyed my confidence. It was a bit like that. Try and build up some confidence and reinforce yourself. If not, try and get other people to do it. And it's okay not to know something. In today's technology world, everybody seems to know everything. They don't. They just don't. It's okay to be honest and open about stuff you don't know. Don't obsess about perfection. I'm a big fan of the 80-20 rule. And actually, one thing, T-shaped learning. If you haven't heard about that, check it out. It's when your knowledge, you know a little bit about a lot, but a lot about a lot. Well, not a little bit. You get what I mean. Fake it until you make it. If you can. Biggest thing I can do. I remember I used to live in London, then moved to Australia, and then decided, you know, sunshine. No, I'm coming back to Scotland. However, I went into a large organization in London. I used to do a lot of cycle stuff. And I like I said, I went from help desk to administration to architecture to DevOps to etc. etc. I went in and I remember there was supposed to be a bunch of us going, and then there was somebody pulled out sick. The project manager suddenly got caught in a meeting next minute. I'm in central London by myself with an iPad. And I went into this business. It's an organization that you would know well. And their IT department was actually bigger than the company I worked for. So I went in and I was like, iPad, and it was to talk about SQL Server. And at the time, I didn't realize how much I knew about SQL Server. And they were all DBAs, right? And I'm like, oh no. They were all Oracle DBAs, thankfully. So I was like, yeah. So I went in, killed it, left the room. And honestly, I felt like I was like a million feet tall. Please do, just give it a try. You might, it might go the other way, but at the same time, at least you can do it. If you can, either give speaking a chance, or if you know a friend or a colleague who wants to do it, encourage them, work with them, spend a lunchtime, listen to their talk, give feedback, encourage where you can, be kind. And biggest thing I can tell you is compare yourself to your yesterday, not someone else's today. You're not all of us are Scott Hanselman or Troy Hunt or etc. etc. Just make sure you're learning. Think about what you've learned, write it down. You'll build that confidence. That's how I do it. I've got a bit here. I've actually got a notepad over here that I write stuff down in occasionally, and it just really kind of helps build me, because I am awesome. and you are too. So that's Octopus, that's RUNBOOKS, and I've been Derek Campbell. And if you have any questions, here I am.
That was great. Thank you very much, Derek.
Yeah, bravo.
Thank you.
So does anybody have any questions for Derek, either on YouTube or here in the chat? Sorry, in Zoom. If you have, please raise your virtual hand. And if not, I have one. That might put you a little bit on the spot, Derek. So you're talking about at the start, you're going from Azure DevOps to Octopus deploying out to Azure.
Yeah.
Why would I make that extra hop into using Octopus when I could do a lot of the release stuff, and I guess some of the RUNBOOK stuff, if I wrote it right, but there's no guarantee of that, in Azure DevOps?
I know that I get that question quite a lot. I love Azure DevOps, I do, but the deployments are nowhere near as good as Octopus. There's lots and lots of stuff there. So I totally understand what you're saying, and I do love it. I just don't like it for deployments. What I generally find, there's lots of benefits, right? So for instance, one of the benefits is multi-tenancy. So like I was showing you earlier on, you've got that one deployment process, right? So with multi-tenants, you can actually use that deployment process thousands and thousands of times. So what you've got there is, so see if you're doing lots of deployments that are very, very similar, and most deployments are, you're normally deploying a website, you're normally deploying a database, etc. You can actually reuse this. You can actually use multi-tenancy. So for instance, you've got Project X, you can actually use that same project to deploy thousands and thousands of projects, whereas you have to have thousands and thousands of projects within Azure DevOps. Another key thing you were saying about Azure Automate, Azure DevOps and Azure Automate don't know about each other. So if you want to run a task in Azure Automate, you need to go into Azure Automate, whereas in Azure DevOps, if you want to build and do your deployment, so you need to go in there. With Octopus, you can use RUNBOOKS, deployment processes, etc., and it's all under one roof. Sorry to steal Toys R Us' old slogan, but yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, but yeah, it's I'm a big fan. And to be honest, when it comes down to me personally, I just think Octopus is far easier to use.
Cool. Okay. Does anybody have any further questions for Derek?
Well, if you do, and you think about it afterwards, I'm on Twitter at DevOps Derek. So obviously, if you do want to ask any questions, just get in touch. You'll see me. I'm going to be on Azure Live. I'm sure you guys, I'm sure some of you watch that as well. So actually, on that note, I'm going to be running a show every Monday night about ops and Azure and whatnot in the new year. Once my son has landed, in between that, like these babies are, sometimes become a bit pesky.
Yes. Yeah.
My wife didn't hear me.
That's a good point actually. So with the Azure Live channel, we are going out to a number of shows with different hosts and stuff. Frankly, we're open to ideas for folks. So if you fancy a shot at running a live show as well, get in touch with myself, Derek, Pete, Jonathan. That's pretty much the whole team. Yeah, let's have a chat. But cool. In the meantime, then, folks, well, thank you very much for all coming, and thank you for all coming a lot throughout this year. I know this year has been difficult on everybody as well, and you've still made it. I'm seeing a lot of regular, familiar faces here, but I think the last thing that we need to do this evening is the prize draw.
Yes. Right, excellent. Can we have a drum roll? Well, actually, I can't really have a drum roll. I've muted everyone. I'll do a drum roll. And the winner is Alan Booksy. Come on down. You've won a free JetBrains license for 1 whole year.
Ooh,
Well done.
Thank you, everyone. And great talks, by the way. I've not done any of the playbook RUNBOOK stuff in Azure, so that was a bit of a deep dive.
Excellent. Yay.
So, Alan, what we'll do with that is over the next few days, we'll get that out to you over via DM on Twitter, and we'll do that from the DevOps Notts account and send that through to you with instructions on how to redeem it.
Thank you.
For everybody else, and well, including Alan, what we will be doing is we will see you next time. So we're not here in December. We're going to take Christmas off because you know we can. And I'm pretty sure nobody wants to come to the last Tuesday of December, which I think is basically Christmas this time. But we will see you on the 26th, I think it is, of January, which is the last Tuesday of the month then.
Yeah. Oh, you can always go to the Tech Notts Christmas party in December if you want to see some people. That's
also true, yeah.
Yeah. It's all right.
Well, thank you very much for coming. I'm going to end the stream now, but feel free to stick around for a little bit if you want to socialize with people and that kind of thing. I'll be around for another half hour or so, and we can go from there. So thank you very much, folks on YouTube as well.
Yeah.
But also, please get in touch with our speakers from this evening, and John's going to send me the slides for his talk, and we'll get those out as well. Thank you very much.
Yeah, see you on the other side. 2021. It can only get better.